So Charlie Munger died in November. We got Buffett, who's like, in the same age bracket. What did Munger do? He just died a fucking billionaire. That's what he did. Is he going to be remembered for anything? What, being a billionaire? Trust me, there will come a time in human history, hopefully, in 1,000 years after we've, you know, come to terms and rebuilt and advanced ourselves spiritually. I don't know how many of us will be left. He won't be remembered. He'll just be he'll be a nothing in the history books, a nothing. Alexander the Great killed thousands because he just wanted to conquer the fucking world. Why? Because he wanted to. That's why. Because that's what he did. That's what he wanted. But he was also smart in that he would leave societies, towns, cities, cultures intact. He didn't try to turn them into reflections of himself. He understood human nature. But still, look what he did to become famous. He conquered. That was it. What do we remember Alexander the Great for? For being great at conquering? Oh, yeah, great way to be remembered. Charlie Munger's gone now. What is anyone going to remember him 10 years down the road? Fuck no. No. And when Warren Buffett dies, is anyone going to remember him 10 years down the road? No. These men will not be remembered. They will simply be remembered as billionaires. That's it. Oh, they were good at making money. Well, you know what they weren't good at? Being humans. They weren't good at ending their lives the way all billionaires should, which is taking every fucking asset they have, liquidating it into real dollars. You see, the point here is real greenback, spendable fucking dollar bills. Not giving your $100 billion to some philanthropic organizations that are full of old white-haired guys just like you that are going to mete out little favors to their little pet fucking projects, really helping no one, solving no problems, solving no social issues. You see, they could both have been remembered as heroes of the world, setting an example for other billionaires. They could have built housing for all of the homeless in America. They could have paid off their court fines. They could have got them automobile insurance. They could have lent them cars. They could have solved so many of society's problems with their wealth. But what did they do? No. They're going to give it to these fucking philanthropic organizations you're never going to hear a single fucking word from. They're never going to build homes for the homeless. You see, they're not going to be remembered for anything. And this is what's going to happen. Charlie Munger, I guarantee you, he is on that other side where I was and where we go to have our souls cleaned before we go and be with God. And he is understanding the fallacy of his entire fucking life. What he could have done at the end of his life with his money and his wealth and his ability to generate wealth, what he could have done and didn't, he's responsible for. He's not a mass murderer or a fucking Vladimir Putin or anything like that, okay? What he's going to understand once he is a spiritual being and no longer a human being is what he could have done at the end of his life with his wealth and his money. The problems he could have solved for perfect strangers, people that he saw as losers. Down in Sacramento, they're building these little mini homes, like little towns, 200 here, 200 there, and free internet, you know what I mean, free utilities, help these people get driver's licenses back, help them become productive people in society because they failed miserably to integrate into this fucked up machine we've created called capitalistic society, where unfettered growth, fetishized purchasing is the way that everyone is supposed to live. Well, they didn't fit into that. They didn't know how to fit into that, and therefore they failed in society, and they become the downtrodden and the criminals and the poor people and the homeless living on the side of the street. Do you think, some people think they want to do that? Charlie Munger could have solved that for tens of thousands of homeless people, maybe even 50,000, 100,000 with his wealth. He could have built hundreds of thousands of these little mini community homes. Did he do that? No. He left all his money to fucking philanthropic organizations that could give a flying fuck about the homeless. Otherwise, that problem wouldn't exist today. This is the problem with billionaires. They're going to suffer on the other side when they take their last breath and they get rid of this fucking mortal body and they become spiritual beings in that other dimension. And they have all knowledge and they are a spiritual being. They are going to put themselves through hell. They are going to understand the depravity and the depth of their fucking ignorance and being human and what they did and didn't do with their abilities to help others. I feel sorry for both of them because neither one of them are these raging maniac Elon Musk types, okay? But at the same time, as pragmatic as they are, they missed the fucking boat. They could have gone down in history as some of the most memorable names with fucking Gandhi, okay, and, Alexander the Great. They could have been, Buffett and Munger, the heroes of society, the heroes of humanity. But instead, they'll be forgotten. They'll be forgotten in time. And right now, Charlie Munger is understanding what he could have done with his money his whole fucking life and didn't. For whatever rationalized reason, okay? Oh, well, if you help these people, then they're never going to help themselves and all that kind of fucking bullshit. Oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I fucking hate that. If I had their money for one day, the next day the money would be spent. I know exactly what I would do. I would build these little communities. I would make sure that there were schools and medical facilities for these little communities. I would make sure that they had free internet. Every fucking little house came with a computer, television, access to news, pay off any of their legal bills, this kind of thing, and you could help hundreds of thousands of homeless people, and the problem would be fucking gone. You would end up in the end having successful homeless people helping other homeless people because they were once homeless people. That's like dominoes. Did they do that? No. Will Warren Buffett do it? No. Will Elon Musk do it? No. Will any of these other fucking billionaires, like the Mars family and shit? No, you never hear a goddamn thing about them. And you won't. Why? Because they have a disease that I have called the billionaires' disease. What they can and should do, they will never do because they are infected with a fucking virus. Okay? It's sad. It's sad. No one's going to remember these guys. No one is going to fucking remember them. They did nothing for the world other than create businesses and jobs. But all that strippage, all that use, all that conglomerating of the assets of the world, the minerals, the materials of the fucking world, okay? The entire, grease that keeps fucking Berkshire Hathaway running, you know what I mean? All of that takes a grand cost on people in the world. How much carbon do you think these two men produced in their lifetimes building their wealth? How much damage did that do to people breathing the fucking air, living with the chemicals? How many people died from their ability to make money? You see, and Munger's gone. He died in November. Buffett's not far behind. They will not be remembered. It's sad. They could have solved the homeless problem. One day, I'm hoping against hope, because every time someone says they're going to do it, all the way back to fucking Ted Turner, back in the 80s, oh, I'm going to give all my money away. It was all a big fucking lie. Tax fucking bullshit. Who else did that? Oh, fuck. There's been a few of them. They're going to give away all their money, and then it turns out to be bullshit. What, Zuckerberg, right? I mean, it's just, and they could actually use their money to solve problems, but instead they use their wealth and their money and their power to boost their fucking egos. Okay, $44 billion, that would have solved the homeless problem in 5 major states in the United States. I'm not sure if you understand how much money $44 billion is, okay? But it would have solved the problem in many, many ways. Nope, I'm going to buy it so I can destroy it because of my fucking ego, because I want to be, you know what I mean? There is a price to pay when you leave this world. I cannot state that firm enough, that religion is a lie, God is real, that your permanence is guaranteed. The information you created and will create even after your death, okay, is the only thing permanent. These men will not be remembered. They'll be forgotten in time. But I can tell you that they will be living the lives of homeless people for what we would consider to be the next million years. Understanding in totality, without one fucking little dot of information missing. They will understand in totality what they didn't do and could have. No billionaire is going to do it. I hope against hope that someday some billionaire will actually do it. They'll actually liquidate all their assets into cash. You have to understand there's such a giant fucking difference between cash and some philanthropic fucking organization that's getting paid by some goddamn annuity was set up so that they can then pick and choose with their little pet fucking projects. It's totally different. It's hidden. You never hear a goddamn thing about them. They have basically fucking disappeared with the money, okay? And all you hear about is somebody's name being put on a building or something, okay? It's not like Wounded Warriors, where you get a commercial on TV every 10 minutes. You see, they tried it again recently. Did you notice that? And they failed. People were no longer interested. It was Wounded Warriors. Well, after, years after we've been in a war, after Iraq and Afghanistan, people were willing to give, and they did give. They gave $300 million a year, of which $278 million was spent on advertising, and 90% of the rest of that fucking money went to the organization, and veterans got 10% of what was left over. A complete and total rip-off scam fucking is what it was. It solved no problem for no one. Yet Charlie Munger died with enough wealth and money where he could have solved the homeless veteran problem. He could have built 100 fucking hospitals. He could have solved the homeless problem in many states of America. He could have actually done something by taking his wealth, turning it into greenback fucking dollar bills, and then spending it on building thousands of little homes like they do in Sacramento, okay? Thousands of these little homes, and helping people get back on their feet. Those people, in turn, help others get back on their feet because they were there and they understand what it's like. The trap that they got stuck in being homeless. They didn't intend to be that way. It can start out with simple as getting a fucking drunk driving ticket. Next thing you know, you've lost everything, and The system has sucked you dry for every penny it can get, and you're now living on the goddamn street. That's how it works. No one chooses to be homeless. Okay, this fucking capitalistic, fetishized, purchased, fucking continuous, infinite fucking growth system we've set in place eats people alive. So, Charlie, I'm sorry, buddy. I know what you're going through. I really do feel sorry for him now. I understand what he's going through. I also don't feel sorry for him because I understand that he understands why he's doing it. It's part of the most valuable lesson. It's part of what he will take when he goes to be with God. He will take all of those lessons with him. And any of the untold trillion to the thousandth power beings that are there with God can experience Charlie's life by living it from birth to death. No, none of these billionaires, Buffett's not going to do it. None of them are going to do it. And it's so fucking sad because if one of them ever does it and people see the gigantic problems they can solve, the use of actual dollar fucking bills instead of these philanthropic organizations that disappear into the goddamn woodwork, okay, to serve their own petty little projects. Converting your $100 billion into cash to actually distribute in ways that help other people, none of them are going to do it. They just won't do it. They have billionaires' disease. And I don't think there's a cure for it as long as humans are going to be human and not a spiritual being.